We're live and we have tools. 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 Yes. It's about time. Let me set up. For those people not watching live, this may be somewhat boring. Hopefully those people watching live will get a kick out of this. You're welcome to ask questions, anything. We're going to go through these live, and we're chilling here, so let me bring you up on the phone here, and we're going to wait for a few people to go up. Oh, it's really happening. Hey, Brian. It's really happening, buddy. Actually, while we're waiting for people, I wanted to, I'm going to go. Hey, Kevin. Larry, Kevin, Brian. Hey, everybody. I know there's other people here, too. I wanted to answer some quick questions, and then we'll go over the tools. Yay, everything's good. So I'm going to exit out of the phone here just real quick because I wanted to answer Casey's questions. It had to do, since it was critical to seat them evenly, talking about seals, also not too deep. Could a washer be used under the socket that fits the crankshaft but extends over the... Yes, he's talking about using a washer as a spacer over the seal to get the right, to help get, but you have to get basically exactly the right fit there. It's got to fit in all dimensions, which may or may not be possible. So washers are certainly possible, but getting the right fit is tricky. What are your thoughts on the margin of error? I don't actually know the margin of error on seals. If I'm seating, so this is a 394 here, and when I'm measuring around, this is not a machine surface. This is a machine surface, but where you're measuring to is not really a machine surface. So how even is it? If I'm measuring in millimeters, I try to get plus minus a tenth of a millimeter for evenness all the way around. That's got to be close enough. Closer would be great, but that's where I'm at. Another would be the thoughts on dealing with aftermarket cylinders with casting edges in ports and transition. So I've said this before, I'll say it again. If you have aftermarket cylinder heads, I will say most, if not all, aftermarket cylinder heads really need to be ported. They actually need probably a significant amount of work in order for them to be really usable. There are rare exceptions, but the aftermarket heads that I've seen, and I've seen a lot of them, are usable after porting and dangerous to use before porting because they tend to be ring hookers and you get all kinds of casting flaws. Now, some of them are beautiful right out of the factory, but that's more of the exception rather than the rule. The other thing that probably would be, for enthusiasts would be good is to make sure that the base is indeed perpendicular to the bore. If you don't have a lathe, it ain't happening. So, any good videos on that? Well, my videos have me mentioning that all the time. I don't know if, whether they consider them good or not. Certainly Walt has great videos on doing some machining, how he sets some of this stuff up. So check out A Fleet Command, AFLEETCOMMAND, A Fleet Command. That's Walt's channel, and he's got some more specific machining videos kind of showing how he machines bases and that sort of stuff. Yeah, so Casey, I hope that helps answer your questions. And I'm going to go back here to YouTube. And all right, we got Rick, William, Kelroy, Kevin, Larry, Brian. Who else is here? And can you guys hear me okay? Anybody? Anybody? Bueller? Yep. Okay, good. Jacob Reed. Just got a comment here. Hang on one second. I got a comment. Oh, back on the 200T. Your costly mistakes saved me money. Thank you, Joshua. You're welcome. Yes. The 200T seals, I put it upside down initially. Whoops. Hey, Ryan. Hope the 200T runs good for you. It was a little cold-blooded to it starts fine. Just let it warm up and it revs nice. Do cross-cylinder heads normally require any work before use? Yes. I would definitely say that, and because I was just talking about this, I would really, any aftermarket heads really need to be given a good look. For the most part, you just can't trust any of them. I would go in there and plan on reporting any aftermarket cylinder head that I buy. Does that answer that question? The one thing that I've heard of with the crossheads is that on the exhaust floor or roof, whichever, the floor is fine, but the roof has a ring hooker, so you got to make sure to give that a little bit of extra bevel, and then they're a little bit better. So we actually have tools tonight. So I'll have to explain this a little bit. I'll let everybody know right off the bat, there are still some burrs on these. So make sure when you get the tool that you actually check for burrs and whatnot. They can be at least a little bit sharp, and we don't want burrs and bearings and whatnot. I'm going to try to clean these up best I can before I get them in shipped, but please be aware that you may need to do a little bit of deburring on these, and just be careful with them. I'm going to say that right off. The machining on the rods, I would say, is excellent. So big thank you to Frank and Brett, and Ryan's friend, by the way. But what else? The sleeves. So I machined the sleeves myself. They are a tad rough. They will work perfectly. I will try to get these cleaned up. And this is actually a really rough one, but these will still, it doesn't matter. These still work fine. They will be perfect. I will try to get these a little bit more polished up so they're not quite so rough. I did these on an old Bridgeport and an old lathe, so these are not exactly super down to thousands, but they will indeed work perfectly, I assure you. Just for land's sakes, don't use a small sleeve on a big saw. If you got a big saw, use the big sleeve. Pretty simple. Otherwise, you'll splay this out. Small sleeve, flywheel side on here. Don't go. You'll mushroom it. Don't do that. Okay. So let's have a look at the rods and see what we got. So these are actually the 6 kits, and these are M10 by 1 right hand, and the machinist, actually Ron is technically the machinist, but one of Brett's guys, but Ron did us all a favor here. The red is left-hand thread. The bluish green Dicam is right-hand thread. Now, what he should have done is red, right, returning, but whatever, we're not going to pick on him too much. So this is a 660 rod. This is a 660 specific rod. I'll say this about the 660 specific kits or the 372 specific kits. This is really only good for that particular saw. If you decide to upgrade to a full kit later, or a main kit, whatever you want to call it, then this rod becomes redundant effectively. But M12, so I happen to have the 034 right here. And anybody doing one of the Chinese saws, I highly suggest that you actually measure the crank. So the outer diameter of these threads is 11.8-ish. The OD of these threads is 11.8, 11.9 millimeters, somewhere in there. If it's like 11.6, it isn't happening. The rod is never going to hold. It really means if it's 11.6, then your crank is technically out of spec. So it should be, if an M12 thread should be like 11.9-ish millimeters, and you'll be fine. So, do they work? Oh, yeah. Yep, that holds. So, M12 definitely fits. M10. This is a 394 flywheel side. So, how about the cross thread? That works fine too. Again, check for chips, but there you have it. So 660s, and then, okay, so not all is roses here, because we, in the middle of everything, we also lost an M14 by one tap. It broke. So I have half a batch on the M14 rods, but I think we're going to be good enough to get us going here. I have to go through the list of people and see how many people actually need those in kits. But we have like half a batch, so we'll be good, and literally within days I'll have the others done. Yeah, Dan, this is super exciting. We have tools. And Larry, yeah, the Meteor kits can work good. You know, I don't think I've actually seen an actual Meteor kit. Their quality control is better, but often, especially with Husky, often the Meteor kits are darn close to OEM price. So I'm not sure that it pays to get the Meteor kits. For Steel, might be different, but for OEM Husky, it might not pay. So Dan, they're here. So what happens now? What happens now? I have to email everybody on the list and figure out what everybody needs. I need everybody to keep it really stupidly simple, because I got to keep track of all this stuff, and I'm having a heck of a time as it is. So, real simple, guys. Let's keep it simple, and I think everything is going to go nice and smooth. Let's see. For giggles here, I just pulled a random. This is a flywheel side rod. This is M8 by 1. Oh yeah, that tightens on perfect. Yeah, Dan, and I've gone over this too. The plating on the Meteors and the Highways is nice because they put all the way up at the top of the cylinder head. So the whole thing is up there is plated, as opposed to the darn lip that Husky does or Mahle does with the OEMs. That drives me berserk. I don't know why there's a plating lip. You should plate the whole darn thing like Highway does. Beautiful plate work. So I've been over that too. It can be really nice. If you're not planning on cutting the squish band, then the Highway or Meteor line might be desirable. If you are going to cut the squish band, then maybe the OEM. And I've said that before, and I'll maintain that until proven otherwise. So if you're going to do a pop-up, Highway is perfect for that. Or Meteor. That's M10 by 1. Yeah, it fits nice. So as far as I can see, the threads on here are good. We've had a few of the small rods crack, but that's only because people are A, putting too much force, and B, we used to have 3/8 in there. Now it's 5/16. So there's a lot more meat. It's not going to crack now. Okay, so what else do we have here? So the tools are in. Does anybody have any questions on them? Should I do a rundown of like what's included and whatnot? I should probably do that, right? Looking to do 290 and 390 conversion with a pop-up. Thanks for the info. Welcome, Kevin. I'm really not a fan of the steel 290s. I'm just not a fan. But you can certainly do a the big bore with the 390. I don't know if that's a clamshell design, and I don't know exactly if it's modifiable or what's available for that right now. I'll let you figure that out because I'm gonna have a hard time commenting on that because I'm just not a fan of the design. The MS290 is one of the saws I don't work on. So let's see if I can pull. See, this got a little bit disorganized here. So I gotta reorganize all this stuff and then have to contact people. So I'm sorry about the mess here. This is a little nutty. Let me go down a little bit. And we'll try to get rid of some of this stuff. And I would do the 262 crankcase tonight, but I had my first day of work today, so I'm not in the mood. I need to get some rest because I got another day tomorrow. I'm working, so use the Bailey's kit. Yeah, 290, 310, 390 clamshells. Yeah, so I don't know, what you can actually do to those. There, Kevin. I used Bailey's kit for that and was very disappointed and sent that saw down the road. We'll never do another one. Yeah, Dan, I'm with you. I am with you. So, okay. I'm just going to see if I can sort of put together a kit here. And actually this should be 394. Let me just check this. 394 here. This is M12 by 1.25. Beauty. Yeah, that's fine. Did I like work? Like is a strong word. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't awful. It's just I feel out of my element. That's all. So getting back into the swing of things is going to be a little difficult, and it's also just a very different office. It's run differently, and there's people are different, everything's different. So I have some adjusting to do. That's all. I'm just getting rid of some of the burrs here. Everybody, please do this. Make sure that you don't have burrs. Okay, so what is included in a main kit? What are the options? So a main kit is going to be a flywheel side rod, M8 and M10. This does most of the flywheel side crankcases, most. Not all, most. You can actually use either of the sleeves with it. It just depends on what fits your saw. If you can use the large sleeve, use the large sleeve. It's sloppy, doesn't matter. If you have a large saw, use the large sleeve. Otherwise, if you have a large saw and use a small one, you're going to mushroom this. Don't do that. If you're paranoid about the sloppy fit, 10 turns of electrical tape. Just takes a few seconds, but I assure you, it works perfectly even without the electrical tape. So, the other three rods, and we're going to pretend here that these are different. The other three rods that you get, M10, M12, and M14. M10 is two different M10s, M10 by 1 left hand, M10 by 1.5 left hand. M12 is M12 by 1.25 left hand, M12 by 1.0 left hand, M14 by 1.25 left hand, M14 by 1.0 left hand. What saws does this do? 254 Husky, 254, 257, 262, 272, 268, 288. I assume the 298s. I'm not so sure about the 2100s, but I'm pretty sure that they're all the same anyway. They fall under M12, I think, by 1.25 and M10. So should do the 2100s as well. That series, 346s, and that whole family there, 372s and the whole family there, 385s, 390s, 3120s, so it does basically all the newer stuff up to 3120. Steel, basically from an 026 all the way up to an 880, with the exception of the 880, which needs a special sleeve for that is sold separately. I didn't really realize the 880 had such a big clutch side bearing. Beside the point, I have a sleeve. If you want to do 880s, let me know. What won't it do? It will not do the 242 XPs. So I do have a special rod for that. I think I have some of those in stock. It will not do the old style Husky 61 or 266s because it's got a funky clutch side thread, and I have a rod for that. That's sold separately. That rod, incidentally, has a second end, and the second end is a steel 661. And M13 by 1.0 steel changed it. I don't know why, but so I have that double-ended rod that's available, not included in the kit. And 576 XPs, 575s, and 570s. They went to M15 instead of M14. I don't know why, but they did. And so I have a special rod for that. Again, that is available separately. So the main kit, as you see it here, with the nuts, bolts, handles, essentially 4 rods, 2 sleeves, nuts, bolts, washers, is $170 shipped. I have lots of people on the list. If you want to be on the list, please let me know. I will send out emails later tonight. I need to get people that are on the list, need to move this along. I've got this stuff on my credit card. Pretty please, pretty please. If you're interested, let's get this going, and I will get these shipped out to you probably Friday. I'm working all day tomorrow, 8 to 7. So I'll be back on this tomorrow night, and I'll be hopefully making a trip to the post office Friday, and possibly even Saturday. For those people that get the money done. So let's see who else is here. Brian Brady, I prefer to just repair and keep stills running. Actually, do the tweaking and mods on the Husky stuff. Yeah, that's fine, Brian. You multi-chain say hello, Matt. How's it going? I do find the Huskies easier to tweak. In general, there's more play. If you look at the 660s with the free porting and everything, it starts to get really weird in a hurry if you end up in the weeds. So, anyway, so what else is available? I have, let's say, either a 372 or a 660 specific kit. They are both available. They come with a rod that is 660 specific, so M12 and M10. It'll do both sides of a 660 with the large sleeve, nut, washer, and handle. That is $60 shipped to the lower 48. I have to check to Alaska what's going on there. The 372 is M8 and M14 by 1.25, and it comes with a rod, large sleeve, nuts, washers, handle, and that is $60 shipped. If anybody wants these the funky rods that are outside the main kit, they're $30 each. Same with the sleeves. If you need an extra sleeve or something like that, $30 each. So, questions, comments, suggestions, anything, guys? I am very excited about this, and this is going to be a lot of work getting all this stuff in the mail to you guys, but hopefully in the end it's all worth it. No questions? Nothing? I deliver all this stuff, all the goodies. I deliver the goodies. Did I not deliver the goodies? 5 months now to deliver the goodies. Sorry. I think I chased everybody away. It's okay. I got to get on the list here and start calling people and emailing people and Facebooking and Arborist site and OPE, and I gotta. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send a form letter to everybody saying, okay, it's time to pay up, and make sure you double check with me whether I do indeed have this stuff in stock. I really should. William, I am definitely planning on keeping these in stock in some way. These, okay. I don't want to hear any bitching and moaning from anybody about the money, because I have a bajillion dollars out on these. This has been such a pain to get done. Sourcing all this stuff, having things go wrong, this is such a pain. Yes, a bajillion. Literally a bajillion dollars. This is such a pain to do. I mean, if anybody wants to make their own, go for it. Please try to do this yourself. And then when you get frustrated, call me or email me or whatever. So what we're going to try to do next go around is we're going to try to figure out how to use different taps, different methods of tapping to try to get the cost of these down a little bit. I can tell you what, the price that they're at right now is, I should have upped it. I'm not going to for this batch, but it's definitely not going down next time. I can tell you that. Let's put it this way, William. My credit card is smoking right now. So I need you guys to help me not unsmoke it. You know? The guy did have a CNC lathe with live tooling. The guy with the live tooling CNC did the pre-drills and the tapping here. But one of the problems with having a CNC lathe with live tooling is that because of the different combinations here, there's a lot of programming involved. So rather than spending all the time to do the programming, he decided to outsource the rest of the job to these other guys. So I think next go around we're going to modify that a little bit. The other thing with the live tool, the CNC lathes and the live tooling, is that this is rod. This is not solid. So when you're grabbing this, you have to be. It has to not slip if you're single pointing this. It's just, if it slips, you're sunk and you ruin the thing. So the guy that with the CNC was really leery about doing the whole. It would have been better for him to do the whole job, but he was really leery about doing the whole job. As this relationship develops, we'll see what ultimately happens. Fire sale. Fire sale? Beer Ghost, you gonna buy some tools? You need tools. We know that. Everybody knows that. My credit card's smoking. It needs help. I wish I had. I mean, I would put together the 262 case for you tonight. I'm just not feeling like it. It wouldn't be that difficult to do, but I'm really not feeling like it. So yeah, so Jacob, so the what I would consider the main kit, uh, flywheel side rod, M10, M12, M14, large and small sleeve, nuts, washers, handles, all that stuff is 170 shipped. Levi says Cool. Yeah, no kidding. So that's yeah, 170 shipped. The thing about the 880 is that it's got a really big clutch side bearing, so you need an extra sleeve for that. That's an extra $30, so that's 200 shipped. So that'll do basically everything from a 026 all the way up to an 880. I have the specific rod for a 661 if you want to be able to do that. That's an extra $30. But other than that, really, you're pretty comprehensively covered. Let me go get the 880 sleeve. Hang on a second. You guys can see it. So you can see that, you know, this one's a little further off than it should be, but so my other machinist, when he did these sleeves, you can see that we've got the small, the large, and this is 880 specific. Does that help? Does that answer the question? Hopefully that answers the question. So that, nuts, washers, handles, all that stuff included, shipped, is $200. The 661 is different. Let me get a 661 specific rod. I have that somewhere. I think this is a 661 specific rod. So the 661 is this end. This is M13 by 1. And the other, this is actually an old Husky 61 on the same rod. I needed somewhere to put them. So, but the 661 is unique because it's M13 by 1 instead of the 660, which is M12 by 1. Why they did that, I don't know. But again, $30 a piece additional if you want that. For most people, the main kit covers just about everything that you want to do. If you're doing 880s, which is actually fairly rare, I have not sold too many of these. But if you're doing 880s, then that's $30. If you really want to be able to do 661s, then that's $30 too. So does that help? When I designed the whole thing, I was really hoping to only use one sleeve. And there, you know, I've heard all kinds of arguments for making an adapter, you know, system, but there's no point. It's actually easier to do individual sleeves because the cost of the materials is nearly irrelevant compared to the machine time. So every time you have a different cut or something that fits into something else, it's too much of a pain. Homelighter McCulloch, shoot them. Tim, you know, the point of this is actually that this is a versatile kit. If you need to modify something here, do it. So what? Chop a little bit off, make something smaller, ream it out, you know, retap something if you need to. Get your own rod, get a piece of 3/4 rod and put your own individual on the end of it, whatever it is. But at least you have the base kit. And, you know, really the concept here is that this really should work on pretty much any 2-cycle motor. That's, you know, a relatively this size type of thing. If you're pressing crankcases together, you know, or basically the better way is you're pulling a crank through a bearing. If you're pulling a crank through a bearing, this should work for it, you know? I don't see why this wouldn't work on Dolmar. I don't see why this wouldn't work on a Homelighter McCulloch, as long as you're pulling a crank through a bearing. You don't need this on the 090s because of the roller bearing. You don't need this on the 200Ts. Roller bearings. You're not pressing anything. I'll put my email in per usual here. If anybody wants to shoot me an email and get on the list, you're more than welcome to do so. Questions, comments, otherwise, before I call it a night and go start emailing people. How many sets you got? I don't know. I have 36 each of the sleeves. 36 of the big ones, 36 of the small ones, and then probably a dozen of the 880s left. Until I contact everybody and the money starts coming in, it's going to be really hard to tell. But I can replenish. Now I think it's hopefully down to weeks instead of months to get the supply replenished if I run out. Will it work on your Craftsman saw? I don't know. If it's clamshell, no. Actually, that's not true. If you have a clamshell saw and you have a crank and you need to get the bearings on, will it work for that? Yeah, it'll work for that. You can put the bearing on the crankshaft with the tool, assuming you have the right thread. And I don't know what Craftsman uses, but you can certainly do it. I don't normally recommend that you do that because I normally recommend that you put the bearings in the case halves first. Position the bearings in the case halves first. Just like this, okay? Bearings in the case halves first, then you pull the crank through with the tools. However you want to position those bearings, I don't care. If you want to do them hot, you want to do them cold, doesn't matter to me. What you don't want to do is you don't want to put the bearing on first and then try to pull the bearing into the crankcase with my tool. That is a very bad idea. That's how people break tools, and overall it kind of defeats the purpose of the tools, which is to not put any lateral forces on the bearings. If you're pulling here and the outer race is grabbing the crankcase, then you're putting a lateral force on the bearing, which is not something you want to do, and kind of the whole point of doing this. Other questions? I think I have 40 some odd people on the list, and I don't know how many want main kits, but I'm gonna guess probably 20 or 25. So that means that I probably have some main kits left over, but I might be shy on the big sleeves. So I will definitely work on getting more of those. Other questions before I start emailing people? Ice Road, you're very welcome. I tell you what, once you try this once, just try this once, and you're just never gonna go back to the hot cold thing. It's just if you don't have the tools handy or whatever, you're just gonna be looking around for them because, oh man, it's such a difference. It really makes such a difference in the time, the aggravation. It's more controlled. There's no risk to anything. Kevin, you're welcome. Ken, don't forget to get some rest, okay? And yeah, tomorrow's storm coming in. We might get something, we might get nothing. Who knows? Be safe, Ken. Bedtime. You're right. It's bedtime for me too. But I'm gonna be working on emails here. So, anybody else have any questions? Take care, William. Okay. We'll be in touch. Thanks, Tim. Hope you're having warm weather down there. Okay, I'll call it. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much. Email me if anybody needs anything, and we will talk to you probably tomorrow night after work. If I have any energy left, I'll come back on and we'll chat some more. And I really hope to get some of these in the mail if I get paid. I'll get some of these in the mail Friday. So that's what we're looking at. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Have a good night.